Hello everyone and welcome to another report on the state of co-prosperity sphere with me, Alpha by Omega and Empire of Japan. So this year was ours. We have had the best growth ever and it made me really happy. We totally grew by 10.65%, increasing our GDP from 281.88 billion to 311.89 billion, which is amazing. Overall, that means that the growth of the Japanese economy from the start of the game reached 24.04%, and that is just lovely. However, it is nowhere near the growth of China, which has grown by 32.55%. That's just insane. That's a third of their economy added within a scope of 1 year. They now have 86.91 billion in GDP, which is just amazing. So the two top earners in the sphere have both grown in green numbers, and that just I'm really happy. Double-digit growth for both of us. The third nation has also had a massive growth. State of Guangdong gained 10.77%, boosting their economy from 37.8 billion in GDP to 41.87 billion GDP. So just awesome. And the fourth one on the table again had a really nice growth. Manchuria, for the first time in what? In ever? Yeah, for the first time ever, actually reached nearly 5% in growth by adding 4.67%. So their GDP increased from 37.06 billion to 38.79 billion. So top four nations all grew really nicely. Then it starts to slow down, but we saw some really good numbers as well. Azad government added 3.44%, as is usual for them. Number 6 is now the Shinan it's the Confederate Cities of Granada. I keep messing that up. So the Confederate Cities of Granada added 1.1%, which actually isn't all that much, but I'm happy that they have some growth at least. So since they joined the world, they added 1.94%. I mean, in the first year they had a little bit of a drop, then they had a less than 1% growth, now it's 1.1%. So hopefully the reconstruction is going to kick in soon. The seventh nation is Philippine Shoto Range Seifu, and they grew by slightly less than 2%, 1.87%, which is actually normal for them. So they are now at almost 7.1 billion. Number 8 is Republic of Indonesia, and they grew by 2.16%. Nothing bad, nothing good. Number 9 is Shinan Reconstruction Authority. They grew by 1.87%, which is, it is something. It is definitely something. Number 10 is now Republic of Thailand. They added 3.02%, a little bit of a slowdown since the very, regular growth of between 3.6 and 4%, but still, 3% is nice. They are now at 5.11 billion. It is worth saying that Thailand hasn't really had a single bad year, and thus they are closing, and probably next year they're gonna reach a roughly 40% increase since the start of the game, which is really nice. Number 11 is who? Number 11 is Peru. Peru added 4.52%. So since they joined the co-prosperity sphere and we tracked their growth, they added 13.82%. Really not bad in just a couple of years. Number 12 is Zaire. They added 3.67%. So finally we can see that they're growing. They're growing by a sort of a mid growth speed, I'd say. They added 0.16 billion and now they're at 4.52 billion. Number 13 is Burma, added 2.16%, which is, very much in line for them. Number 14 is Vietnam. They added 2.64%. Wait, what? What am I saying? Not 1.54%. They added 1.54% to 2.64 billion total GDP. Number 15 is Mengyang. They added 4.79%, really nice growth. They've added nearly 50% to their economy since the start of the game, which is really, really nice. So, unfortunately, they started with an extremely low number in the beginning of just 1.2 billion. But even through that, they are closing on to 2. So, that is pretty good. Number 16 is Democratic Republic of Malaya. They added nearly 5% at 4.94, and again the same as who was it? Wait, what am I saying? No. That is... Oh, Mengyang. It was Mengyang, yeah. So I got a little bit confused there. So the same as Mengyang, they are growing really nicely, really fast, really steadily, and Democratic Republic of Malaya actually added nearly 63.5% since the start of the game. Number 17 is Seihoku Homigun, added 2.44%, very much in line for them. That is nothing surprising. Number 18 is Cambodia. They added 3.16%, so they're closing on to 1 billion in GDP. Number 19 is Laos. They added 4.11%, so really a nice number there, nearing 40% of total growth since the start of the game. Number 20 is Nampugui Second, very small growth of 1.2%, but it's a regular thing for them, so not an issue. And number 21, which is the last and smallest nation in the co-prosperity sphere, is Bhutan. They added 1.83%. Kind of interesting with Bhutan, despite being such a small economy, added almost fourth of their GDP since the start of the game. So that makes me really happy. And the nations at number 22 are all out of the game, including the Union of African Social States, who still exist, but they quit the co-prosperity sphere and joined the African Commonwealth, I think it's called. Now, top 10 world economies. Not much surprising there, apart from the fact that Germany just blew up. That's just crazy. So, number 1 still is United States of America. Added 2.83%, which means they retain position number 1 with 386 billion, 310 million in GDP. And number 2 is now the aforementioned Großgermanisches Reich. They are now at 323.3 billion in GDP. They added unbelievable 17.5%. Last year. It's just crazy. They jumped from 275.15 billion to 223. I'm mad because, we added over 10%, 10.65 to Japan, and it still isn't anywhere near enough. Just isn't. So that is really crazy. I guess that as far as economy goes, Germany is just gonna be number 2 from now on. We'll have to get used to it. Number 4 is Regno d'Italia. They now have 2.73% growth. Again, very much in line for them. They've added between 1.73 and 2.98. I saw that 2.88. Yeah, that's the highest growth. So it is at the upper level of what they usually add, but nothing really major. Number 5 is United Kingdom. Their growth continuously, basically more than a growth, we could call it a crawl. They added just slightly over 1%, 1.09. So, they're still number 5, but number 6, Republic of China, is really jumping and grasping at them. With 32.55% growth this year, they grew to 86.91 billion, and if they added anything like last year, they might probably become number 5 in next year, which would be good for the co-prosperity sphere, Number 7 is still Brazil. They added a really nice 9.19% in GDP growth, currently sitting at nearly 50 billion, 49.88 billion to be precise. Number 8, again, State of Guangdong, added 10.77%, so firmly at 8th place with 41.87 billion. Number 9 is French State with the growth of 8.79%, which is really nice for them. They're speeding up their growth significantly. I don't know how much they had in the beginning. Yeah, 1.89%, so they've managed to restart their economy pretty much. So, they're not in any immediate danger of being overtaken by number 10, which is State of Manchuria, which added just slightly under 5%. But again, hopefully the table will stay like this because we are represented there with 4 nations now. Japan, China, Manchuria, and Guangdong. So hopefully these states will all retain there, because almost half of the top 10 economies belongs to us. Now, global statistics. The overall world economy grew by 6.23% from just slightly over 1.9 billion to not 1.9 billion, but 1.9 trillion to 2,018,300,000,000 in world GDP, which is a growth of 6.23% and a difference of 118 billion in just 1 year. However, total sphere GDP grew by nearly 12%, 11.97% if you want to be precise, and we added 58.39 billion of the total world growth. So more than half of, is it half? No, just slightly under half. Yeah, just slightly under half, because half would be 116 billion. So we added 58.39 billion to the sphere, meaning that the sphere is basically half of the total world growth. That is amazing. When you realize that additional, 38 billion went just to Germany, they're hogging up most of the world growth. It's pretty darn interesting. Total sphere trade increased by 28.83%. Again, these numbers are all over the place. We added 41.11 billion. So that's a growth of 23.83%. And the total growth of the sphere's value on the overall world GDP grew by 5.47% to 27%, which is a difference of 1.4% year on year. Really, really nice. 27%. We're closing on to third of the entire world economy being located in just the sphere. So that makes me really happy. Now, the additional statistics for our game. Total debt of Japan has unfortunately increased slightly by 3 billion from 263.88 billion to 266.92 billion. Unfortunately, as we recognize, the debt, we are in a constant deficit, and we're also piling up debt from the infrastructural projects that we keep pushing. Now, it is all good because, the actual debt to GDP ratio dropped by over 8%, 8.1 actually, from 93.6% to 85.5%. So the economy is very healthy, we're rapidly growing, but it would be better if the real debt as well dropped. We keep keeping it around the starting value, which was 260.5 billion. And considering that our economy is now over 311 billion, again, that is a very healthy growth. But still, if I could, I want to lower the debt, real debt growth to as low as possible, because, again, it's a ball and chain that we're dragging behind us. And even if we pay just like 1% of that every year, it's nearing to it's nearing to 3 billion every year just in debt interest. So, and actually, I think we're paying like 1.5. So that means that the debt servicing would at this point be around 4 billion. It's just crazy numbers. If we could invest those 4 billion into the economy, it's just, never mind. Euro surplus dropped by 0.4 billion, so we are now sitting at 0.75 billion every single year in debt wait, what is it? In year deficit. I couldn't remember the word. Now, year surplus made in percentage again decreased from minus 0.13 to minus 0.24. So this really all these numbers are connected. The only thing again that makes me really happy is the rapid rate at which the debt to GDP ratio is shrinking, but the fact that the debt is growing is just unnerving a little bit. I don't like that. I'd like to have at the worst even expenditures with the income. Production units increased by 29 to 206, so this is an insane growth. And when you compare it to the very beginning of the game where we had 138, the difference is just staggering. Manpower in millions is now 4.57, which is not a percentage number. I don't know why the game claims it is. Increase of about 40,000. I think this is, we keep pushing the military austerity, so the numbers are a bit wonky because they are reduced by the military austerity. The army force, though, increased significantly. Again, this is going back to the deficit. We keep growing our army, and that, of course, increases the army expenditures. So once we slow this expenditures growth down, the growth of the economy and the increase in taxes should catch up to it, and we should again see at least a slight surplus. But our army is now at 608,400 men, which is a year-on-year growth of 32%. When you look just 2 years ago, we nearly doubled our army force size, so quite significant increase. And again, that reflects very well. We had 2.19 billion in euro surplus. Now it's a deficit of nearly $1 billion. But again, this makes us much stronger, and with the growth of China and other sphere members, we need to exercise a growth in military capacity, because when we looked at a potential possibility of a war in China, it didn't really bode well for us. We were significantly weaker when it came to manpower, or fielded manpower. That would be a better way how to put it. Navy size increased by 5%, so it's a very small growth, but I don't mind it. It is, I'd say, a reasonable growth for the Navy. We're currently at 193,920 men, which is a year-on-year growth of 5%. Air Force increased by 57%. Yeah, we deployed a ton of new air wings. Again, that is connected to the Army Force size. So now the Air Force is at 228,000, a growth of 57% year-on-year. But on the other hand, we really didn't have any growth of the Air Force since 1966, so it is good to see that. And as we're gonna research more and the newer models of aircraft, the Air Force is probably not gonna grow anymore at all. I don't expect much growth in Army Force size either, and the Navy we're gonna grow a little bit more, but then we're gonna just keep phasing out the older ships, mothballing and scuttling them, because we will not need a Navy much bigger than this. Population of Japan grew by 4.35 million people to 144.29 million, which is a really healthy growth. I hope it's gonna only speed up as we advance our healthcare and other modifiers. Poverty rate continues to decrease, which makes me extremely happy. It did drop by 1.73% year on year now, so we are quite far away from our peak in 1966. I think, yeah, when we had a 35.36% poverty. Now we're at 33.17%, but we're still very far from the starting value of 29.2%. Score of US military increased by 16, score of US economy increased by 7, and the overall score number increased by 110 points. Score of German military increased by 116. Score of German economy dropped by 6. I really don't understand the scoring though, because they added 17.5% to their economy. To their GDP. Economy is more than just the GDP, but still, how is that, reflective of that number when their score dropped by 6%? By 6. It's really, really weird. But the total score increased by 72, And as far as Japan goes, military increased by 47, so the highest growth of the superpowers. Again, well in line with what we were doing. Score of Japan's economy increased by 13, which again is the highest number of them all. So, we're doing something right. And score of Japan total increased by 98. So that is pretty good. We have 3,142 points. USA has 2,110 points, and Germany has 1,578. And last but not least, the approval of House of Peers dropped by 6% to 54, which is fine. We don't mind that. We just need to keep it above 55, which we will. We have a lot of time for that. The public approval, though, keeps dropping. We had it very high just a couple of years ago. Yeah, it was 84.5. That was the peak. I'm burning a lot of it so that we can push for the things like, Shinkansens and stuff like that. So we're recycling the high value of the public approval for the infrastructure projects. So there's going to be a lot of changes in these numbers. And the government stability is at 66%, but it's supposed to be 100. It's just because the approval of House of Peers is currently at 54%, the government stability dropped to 66, but it is in reality 100. And now, last but not least, let's look at the graphs just to have a little bit of an idea of what's going on. As you can see, Republic of China is just skyrocketing when it comes to its GDP. Manchuria is continuing its growth, but at a much slower rate than Guangdong, which is growing really, really fast, and it's increasing its distance from Manchuria. And Assad Hind government just doing its thing this whole time. And here we can see the world economy growth in comparison, that's the word I'm looking for, with the top three superpowers. Now, kind of interesting, you can see that Germany is growing really rapidly. They jumped above us. However, even we are growing pretty rapidly, just making this gap between us and the United States smaller every year. I think we will need way more time that the game is going to give us, but if this trajectory continues, we could get very close to it in, the total number represented by GDP. So we're going to have to see how it's going to go. So anyway, thank you very much for joining me for this brief report on the state of co-prosperity sphere. We are finally starting to look a little bit better. Japan increasing its economy. China has more than doubled itself, so did Guangdong. Numbers are looking pretty good. So hopefully we're going to continue putting in such a good number in Japan. I would be happy with anything closing on the double digits in next year. The growth itself is like 6%, so whatever we gain from focuses and additional boosts from the infrastructure projects is going to be great. But I don't think we're going to have such high growth again. But who knows? Maybe we will. I don't know. We'll see. Still, either way, it's going to be great. So thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you in a year with another Intermezzo and another State of Co-Prosperity Sphere report.